Chapter 1. Moving Day. I stare up and through the sunroof the whole journey. I figure that if I don't look where we are going, then perhaps it won't happen. I also kid myself that it'll be impossible to cry if I constantly look up. Moving house is just the next in a series of reasons why my life is pants. You would have thought that Mum would have been going out of her way to make me happy after what had happened lately. Instead, she announces out of the blue that we have to leave home, where all my smiley memories are, and go and live in a strange house in a strange town. Moving house is the poo icing on a triple poo flavoured cake. The sunroof view changes as we travel. It starts with a bright blue sky with wisps of white and some lamppost-shaped silhouettes slowly going past. Next, the frame of the sunroof is edged by tree branches, which move too fast to pick up any details. After a while, the trees disappear, and the sky catches up with my mood and is filled with dark and thunderous clouds, although the rain never comes. The light goes out of the day, and as the car starts to make more frequent turns, the lampposts return, but this time they are shining down yellow light which provide no warmth. The car comes to a halt a little too fast, and the back of my head becomes unfastened from the headdress, so I involuntarily take my first look at the new house. "We're here, Lila," says Mum with an enthusiasm which doesn't feel genuine or shared. "We're here, Lila," were the only words spoken for the entire journey. I don't know how Mum knew it was the right house, as it is just a large black shape against a slightly less dark sky. The street lights are broken at the end of this cul-de-sac. Maybe Mum knew this was the right house, as it is the only one in the close with no lights on. Mum leads the way to a small gate, which she bumps into before opening. A small path cuts through the front garden, which steps upwards twice, which Mum demonstrates well is impossible to see in the dark. She also drops the house keys when we reach the front door, which, without the aid of a security light, are extremely difficult to find. Since negotiating the gate, Mum has hissed a number of special words, some of which I had not heard before, and all of which I am sure I would get into trouble if I repeated them. As well as being naughty words, the curses did appear to have some echolocation properties, as, after a particularly long combination, she finds the keys. There is more fumbling to find the lock, and after some more echolocation, she inserts the key and the door opens inwards. Luckily for my innocent ears, there is a light switch near the inside of the door, and Mum's language returns to a universal rating. The first thing you notice when you enter a house is not the way it looks, but the way it smells. The only exception to this is your own home, unless you have been away on holiday. Check it out, it's true. Although Mum insists this house is our new home. It isn't. Home is 2 hours back down the road. I can smell this house, and I'm not coming back from holiday. So this isn't home. It smells wrong. On the left there is a set of stairs, which after 13 steps turns to the right and is swallowed by the darkness. To the right there is a door, and at the end of the hall there is another door. "Right," says Mum, breaking the silence. "You must be hungry. I'll get the kitchen bags from the car and make you a peanut butter sandwich." In as few words as possible, I reply, "I'm not hungry." Despite the long journey, this is true. My anger that this ridiculous idea is still stuttering forwards against my wishes is a very fulfilling meal. Maybe it could be the new fad diet, the Fury diet. I could make millions. Undeterred by my hunger strike, she continues, "Well, I'll make you one anyway, in case you change your mind. The kitchen is straight on. You can put the kettle on for me." "Yes, Mum. Of course, Mum. I don't mind exploring the creepy house on my own. Anything for you, Mummy dearest. I know you would do anything to make me happy." I don't really say that. Apparently this arrangement of words in this context would be determined to be sarcasm. In my experience, Parents don't like it when their children are sarcastic. Instead, I just think it, roll my eyes, and maintain my policy of saying as little as possible to her to make sure my feelings are still crystal clear. Oh, I did huff, but I don't think a huff counts as a word. The kitchen is covered in a black murkiness. For all I know, I was on the edge of a never-ending black hole, and when I step forwards, I will fall for all eternity. That would teach Mum a lesson for bringing me here against my will, against all sense. In reality, I'm not keen on exacting that level of revenge on my mum. So mostly, out of self-preservation, I do not step off the precipice. I stay on the known, solid floor of the hall, feel around on the wall just inside the door, find a switch, and turn it on. It is a bog-standard kitchen, with worktops, a fridge-freezer, cooker, sink, kettle, and a breakfast bar. On the back wall of the kitchen, there is a window and a back door, which presumably opens out onto a garden, although it's currently too dark to see. Then I notice something which really gets my interest and makes me forget myself. Mum! Mum! There's a cat flap! Great. Can you make sure it's locked? I don't want some stray cat coming in and making this house a home. I would, I whisper. I go to bed early so I don't have to put any effort into not talking to Mum. I lay on the bed, staring up through a curtainless window at a blurry full moon. I weep quietly to avoid alerting Mum. I'm still too angry to give her an opportunity to make things right. It all went full glitch when Mum and I had our first meal. Does peanut butter sandwiches and milk qualify as a meal? We were sat at the breakfast bar, overlooking the back door with the cat flap. I asked Mum whether she had ever had a pet, maybe a cat. I did once, when I was a girl, but younger than you are. Your granddad came home from work one day with a kitten. I had nagged Dad for ages, but it was still a complete surprise. She was gorgeous. She was white with patches of ginger and brilliant green eyes. Her fur was unbelievably soft, and she loved fusses, although she didn't really like being picked up. We called her Ginger Nut because of her patches, and she used to go crazy when we got her to chase a feather tied to a piece of string. Dad said that Ginger Nut belonged to me and my sister, Auntie Helen. He said that the cat was our responsibility, and between the two of us we had to make sure that she was fed and did her business in the garden. We both promised with angelic smiles that we would. Trouble was, Auntie Helen and I used to argue like cats and dogs when we were kids. If there were 50 identical marbles in a bag, we would fight over the one which was in the other's hand. It's what siblings do. Unfortunately, we could not agree a ceasefire for the sake of Ginger Nut. We would disagree about whose turn it was to feed her and let her out. After Dad found the cat meowing for missing a meal one too many times, and after a couple of accidents, he warned us that we couldn't keep her and that he would find another home for her with 2 little girls who would look after her properly. Things came to a head when Ginger Nut weed on Dad's work clothes. He was furious. He stormed out of the house with the cat under his arm. We never saw her again. We found out afterwards that our next-door neighbour had said he knew where he could get rid of her, and Dad, fueled by anger, quickly took him up on his offer. I believe Dad was telling the truth when he said he thought that Jim, our neighbour, had meant he knew where he could find her a new home. In fact, what Jim meant was that he knew where to get rid of a cat with the aid of a sack and some suitably heavy stones. I was heartbroken. I must have cried non-stop for a whole week. Dad must have felt really bad as he offered to buy us a new cat. But I didn't want a replacement. I wanted Ginger Nut. When I think back on it, it still makes me sick to my stomach. I couldn't go through losing another pet again. It would be too upsetting. I was shocked. Did Jim go to prison? No, love, he didn't. It was a different time. It wasn't exactly accepted, but more common. There was a time cats were just rat and mice catchers. Once they were too old and slow to catch mice, they were replaced. Mum, don't you see? This is our chance to get our own cat. We can look after it and make sure nothing bad ever happens to her. Lila, you can't stop bad things from happening. Please, Mum. She'd be company for both of us, and I've got no friends here. No, Lila. Mum, come on, please. If you were worried about the extra work, then I could do it. Dish trays, food. I said no, Lila! You owe me a cat, Mum, especially after what happened to Dad. Our voices had slowly been getting louder, but Mum hit the highest number of decibels when she screamed, "We are not getting a cat! We are never getting a cat! I am not losing any more loved ones!"